You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast, of course, presented to you by FanDuel, the official sports wagering partner of CLNS Media. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up today. And Matt, we are officially through championship weekend. There is one football game left in the 2023-2024 season. It's pretty crazy. And this weekend's games were interesting, I guess. I mean, the second one obviously had a lot of drama. The first one was just a complete snooze fest, I thought.
I enjoyed the defense and the drama of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed I was rooting for Baltimore there, but I did enjoy, in kind of a negative sense. I enjoyed the dumb plays we saw the Ravens make for a full 60 minutes there. Enjoy might not be the right word for it, but just I was in awe of what I was seeing in that game.
I'll tell you,
I do like good defense. I enjoyed watching what Steve Spagnuolo threw up there for the Chiefs. That part was fun.
It's got to be one of the worst feelings to be a Ravens fan right now, because the Ravens should be dominant. They should be really good, and they're just not. They just can't compete in the playoffs. Lamar's now 2-4 in the playoffs. It's bad, and it wasn't all Lamar. Lamar was bad, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't all Lamar, and it felt like that team just completely disappeared. The defense, after a really, really rough first few drives, figured it out and got it together. But the offense just, I don't understand what they were doing. It made absolutely no sense.
Well, and I think that you saw the panic set in. I don't think it's fair to lump this in with the rest of the Lamar playoff performances we've seen, because that was a very different offensive system, different offensive coordinator there. And I think the reasons why the Ravens lost this game were different from why they lost some of the previous postseason ones. I think you see the inexperience of Todd Monken in the NFL, I think, was huge as an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the youth and immaturity of Zay Flowers you saw on full display as a rookie. The injury to Mark Andrews, you didn't see him out there. He was a non-factor, and a guy who's supposed to be the Travis Kelce of the Ravens. They really missed having him out there. And, it was one of those that I think the Chiefs were the only defense the Ravens played this year that actually had the corners to cover these receivers well. And they realized pretty early on, we can cover them. We're going to play man coverage, and we're going to blitz Lamar, but we're going to it seemed like a lot of slow blitzes. We're going to rush three, and we're going to have two other guys in there somewhere. And we're going to make sure Lamar can't scramble. He's going to have to throw, and none of his receivers are going to be open. And Lamar's a very good quarterback and a very good passer, but the one thing he's never been the guy who's going to stand in the pocket and throw guys open 20 yards down the field in the way that Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady would do. That's not his game. Yeah. And, being able to slow down that offense, and what came down to too was that the Chiefs got up early, and you could see the Ravens panicked. They didn't know what to do. Pat, do you want to know how many times the running backs for the Ravens got handed the ball in this game?
Oh, I know. But enlighten everyone that hasn't heard.
8 times. The Ravens had 57 offensive plays. 10 of them were designed runs. The other 47 were dropbacks. And there were some, RPO in there that could have gone one way or the other, but the Chiefs bullied them in the run game on the first possession, took a very quick lead and looked unstoppable on offense to start, and scared the Ravens away from their running game right into exactly what the Chiefs were hoping they were going to do. And I think they made some adjustments in the second half. The offense looked a ton better in the second half, even with all of the negative stuff we're talking about. This should have been a tied game probably. But all those personal fouls in the defense hands the Chiefs 3 points at the end of the half. And Zay Flowers with a really just dumb couple play sequence there turns what should have been 7 points into none.
Yep.
Zay scores a touchdown there, and you keep the Chiefs off the board before the half, and we're tied at 14 in the fourth quarter. And we might be talking about this differently. We might be talking about Lamar overcoming a great defensive performance to get his team to the Super Bowl. But somehow, after what we've seen from the Chiefs this year, it was the Ravens' weapons that were the ones letting down their quarterback, and not the Chiefs.
Yeah, what's crazy. So, by the way, just to correct you, their running backs had 6 carries. 2 of those carries went to Zay Flowers on basically bubble screens that ended up being backwards throws. So they handed the ball off to their running back 6 times. 6. That's embarrassing for a team that in the Chiefs that they can stop the run, but they're not the best against the run. And for the Chiefs again, the Ravens again were the number 1 rushing team in the league. It makes absolutely no sense why you would go into that game and say, we're going to run this ball down their throat until they absolutely cannot stop it. And we're just going to keep doing it. And eventually it's going to work. Maybe it won't at first, but eventually it's going to work because we have the horses to do it. You saw when they ran, they had some success running the ball. This is the type of stuff that I'm like, what are you looking at that you don't understand that? And that's the stuff for me where it's if you get stopped once, I mean, just as an example, if we just go through it, okay? Gus Edwards had 3 carries for 20 yards. Now, Justin said with 3 carries for 3 yards, but Gus Edwards averaged 6.7 yards per carry. Now, I know one of them was a 15-yard carry, but it doesn't matter. The point is that you just freaking run the ball to Gus Edwards. I don't understand what they were doing. It made no sense. Lamar carried 8 times. To me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. They should have had more designed runs for him. And so,
I believe it was only 2 designed runs for Lamar, and one of those was that 4th down conversion.
Right. And so it made no sense. And look, I mean, you look at the other guys, and Zay Flowers, of course, had that awful sequence. He was the only guy that showed up. 1 for 39 for Aguilar, 4 for 34 for Justice Hill, 3 for 22 for Odell Beckham, 2 for 16 for Likely, 1 for 16 for Edwards. You mentioned Jackson. Andrews got hurt. Lamar had 1 catch for 13 yards. Rashad Bateman 1 for 2. So it's those things that I'm looking at. Nothing was working, and so when things aren't working, go back to what you do best. Run the ball. Yeah. Lamar's the most explosive athlete on the field. Give him the ball. Get him the ball and see what happens. Or they're trying to run these crazy long plays. Run a quick slant to Zay Flowers. Get him the ball 3 yards from the line of scrimmage. Instead of 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, get him the ball over the middle of the field, 3 yards down the line of scrimmage, and bam, see what happens. It was those type of things. I just had no idea. And I'll tell you, so someone, who was it? James, right here. He said, can't tell if the Chiefs are super good or other teams just kind of choking. This is what happened to the Patriots. When the Patriots were that good, teams got scared. They got scared. They said, we got to beat the Patriots. Oh, my God, we're playing the Patriots. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. We got to be perfect. We got to be perfect. We got to do something different than we've done. They think we're going to run the ball, so we got to pass it. And we have to score a ton of points because they're going to score it. And it's just play your freaking game, man. Play your game and don't do stupid things. And the Ravens did stupid things over and over and over and over and over and didn't play their game. And that's why they lost. And that's why they're going to be at home. They should have won that game. That's a winnable game, and they lost it.
Yep. And I think, too, the guy who's not getting nearly enough credit for this entire thing, Chris Jones. We go back to the Bills game for a second. Everybody talks about, why did Josh Allen throw to the end zone instead of checking it down on that play? Near the end, the guy was open in the end zone. The reason the ball didn't get caught, the reason it was off target, is because Chris Jones hit Josh Allen as he was trying to get rid of that thing. And then this game, I mean, Chris Jones was unblockable on the defensive line, and he had a pass breakup in there. The Ravens had one of those jailbreak screens or whatever where the Chiefs were bringing a blitz. It was 3rd and 9, and would have been an easy first down, I think, to Zay Flowers.
Yeah, it was to Zay, Yep.
And Chris Jones comes across the line of scrimmage, hand up, bats down the screen pass right out of the air. And that's, I think that in some ways the story of the day here, this is a Ravens team that all season long has dominated, not just, by running the football, they've dominated time of possession. They've controlled the games that way. And we look at what happened in the first half. And if you watch the game, you already know where this is going because you felt it.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens drives 1:34, 2 minutes and 43 seconds, 1:30, 2 minutes and 29 seconds, 1:01, and then kneel down at the end of the half, 4 seconds. So their first possession drives. No way to establish a rhythm. No way. I mean, they literally were not on the field enough to figure out what the Chiefs defense was doing to start designing counters for it either. You couldn't establish a rhythm, couldn't get pass catchers involved. Only 57 plays on offense. That's way less than you usually have. And a lot of that was in the second half. And while that's going on, Chiefs, 10 plays, 86 yards, 5 minutes, 45 seconds. 16 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes. Got a 7-play, 20-yard, 3 minute and 8 second. The Chiefs had a 20-yard drive in there that was longer in time of possession than any that the Ravens had in the first half. And they had 2 shorter ones to end the half, but they ate up the entire first 20 minutes of the game and just dinked and dunked underneath and were able to break tackles and pick up first downs that way. And it scared the hell out of the Ravens. That was the one. I mean, the Chiefs did to the Ravens what the Ravens have been doing to teams all year long by controlling the clock and making you play from behind. And the Ravens just do not have. With Mark Andrews banged up and Zay Flowers, making the dumb plays he did, they don't have the personnel to overcome that kind of deficit against a really good defense.
100%. By the way, just one quick correction for you. That is future Patriot Chris Jones. We've talked about that before. Old man Mob benches here. I would die. I would die if you put Barmore and him next to each other. Oh my God, dude!
We're gonna have to. We'll have the Christian, and Chris defense.
That's right. As Ashton said, that'd be a crime for too much talent. It would just be the best defensive line in the game.
Well, I'm imagining a scenario where you put Barmore like at the over. What you do is you put Chris Jones over like the center, and then Barmore out over like the guard, and then Judon outside the tackle, and then you bring Chris Jones on like a stunt and have him wrap around all of those guys. That'd be fun.
Nah, it'd be foolish. Anyways, all right, let's get into So long story short, Baltimore blew it. In my opinion, Baltimore blew it. And look, Mahomes is getting the accolades. And look, he had 2 great drives. You know what this reminded me of, which is funny, and I know it was the end of Jesus Christ, Manning's career. But that 2013, I believe it was 2013, or was it 2015? I can't remember if it was 13 or 15. No, it was 2015. The 2015 AFC Championship game in Denver.
Oh, yeah.
Where Manning had the 2 touchdown passes to Owen Daniels to start the game, basically. Put the Patriots in a hole 14-0 or 14-3. They may have kicked a field goal in there somewhere.
They did. Yeah.
And they did nothing. Like the Broncos did nothing the rest of the game. And the Patriots just couldn't move the ball on their defense. Now, the Patriots offense was incredibly hurt. They had no receivers. Everyone was banged up. Edelman was the only guy playing, and he was banged up. And it was just like they had nobody.
It was a banged up Edelman and a banged up Gronk and a center who was giving away the snap count on every single play. Against that's probably the hottest streak you've ever seen from a pass rusher in the modern NFL.
100%. Yeah, Von Miller is incredible.
I'm not even mad about 2015 anymore. Like you go back and watch those games now, and all you can do is tip your cap in respect and be like, the Pats left it all out there. That was all they had that year, and they came up 2 points short on the road against the eventual Super Bowl champion. You know what? There's worse ways to go out.
Yeah, true. And you can be pissed. I mean, if you want to be pissed about something, you can be pissed about earlier in the year. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Yes.
But nevertheless, it's one of those things that that's what it reminded me of. And again, Mahomes is obviously significantly better than Manning was in 2015, but that's the type of game it was where they had nothing. He had nothing. He did nothing in the second half. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score, but he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't lose the game for his team, and he did enough at the beginning of the game that they couldn't come back from it. And that really, for me, is like, all right, we're good. It's almost like we're good. I got this, guys. Don't worry about it. I'll score at the beginning, and then we'll just ride it out the rest of the game, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I think you got to credit the Ravens defense too for the way they stiffened up in the second half, and I mean I think after the first two Chiefs possessions, I was sitting there thinking, I feel like the Ravens just played really, really, really good defense to start this game, and they haven't gotten a single stop. They've been first downs every single series, and it was just like at a certain point you're throwing your hands up and like I don't know what else the defense can do, and eventually that some of the plays started to break down and they were able to cover guys better, but at that point the damage was done.
Well, at 14-7, when Lamar fumbles, you're like, I was like, the game's over. Like, that's it. It's over. And then they stuffed him.
Ravens, and I was like, all right, there's life. But it was they bounced back. But this is the first game all season for the Chiefs where they didn't have a single wide receiver drop.
Yeah.
And it felt like that was kind of like, this is what have we talked about all year long? The guys around him can't do anything. And with the game on the line, a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling catching a ball while falling down deep behind the defense. Mm-hmm. That's the second game in a row where he's had a big catch like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't catching those earlier in the year. Now it's the playoffs and he catches both of them. Like that's just they finally got the bounces going their way.
Well, you got to remember now, Kelsey with 11 catches. Rashee Rice was the guy they were targeting a ton. I mean, he had 8 catches for 46 yards. That's the one thing. And so we sit here and talk about Mahomes and so on and so forth. He dink and dunk, man. He attempted one pass that traveled over 10 yards in the air, and it was the MVS one at the end of the year, or at the end of the game. It might have been 15. That might be wrong with the 10, but he didn't throw the ball down the field. He took what the Ravens gave him and trusted his guys that they would get open and maybe break a tackle or two and pick up a first down. And the Ravens didn't do that. The Ravens were trying to throw the ball deep, and it was just I don't understand the game plan there. And they hit a few. Zay caught a few, and that's what led to him having over 100 yards receiving. But it was just like I didn't get it right. It was like just take what's there.
Well, I think the big difference there was the Ravens played a ton of zone.
Yeah.
So you could dink and dunk and find some holes in the zones, and the Chiefs are just playing straight up man coverage, and you can't dink and dunk against that. You need to wait until somebody works his way open. And outside of that one big Zay Flowers touchdown, late in the down where he's able to extend a play and create something, Ravens really didn't do a whole lot of that. And that was, I think you saw the difference in the skill position guys, because like Odell Beckham was fine to start the year, but he hasn't improved. Aguilar. Bateman has been just a guy out there for the Ravens. And meanwhile, the Chiefs, Rashee Rice has blossomed into something, and kind of felt like Travis Kelce was holding back a little bit in the regular season. And now that it's the playoffs, he's going all out, which, I don't blame him for. I think if Gronk had done that a little bit, he may have played a little bit longer in his career.
Yeah.
He preserving his body. Now it's the playoffs. It's full go. And just those two with Mahomes and we're talking about like the Chiefs offense, like they did well. It was just 17 points. The Ravens defense did a really good job. It was just enough. The story of this game to me is Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, what those guys did for Kansas City.
Yeah. And I think you're totally right about that. I mean, to me, what's crazy about it is that, it's, man, they had the opportunities, and Lamar. So you talked about them playing man. Why aren't you running Lamar on every play? If you're going to play man against me, and by the way, Willie Gay's hurt, didn't play. He's the spy guy. And so if you're playing man, bro, I'm dropping back, and I'm running a QB draw. See you later. And
Chiefs,
the defensive line was very good.
But the Chiefs had like 2 QB spies on every play, which was the tough part of it. Every time they tried. I think you also saw on Sunday that Lamar is not the same athlete that he was in 2019. He's still an elite athlete, but he wasn't breaking tackles that way. He wasn't, that fourth down run he had in 2019, that's a touchdown. He takes that to the house.
Right.
Sunday, he pulls up short and goes down. He's in some ways, Lamar looked like Mahomes out there the way he was. They're willing to give him as much time in the pocket as he wanted, sacrificing, saying we're not going to come at you aggressively, but we're going to make sure you have nowhere to go. You have to sit in the pocket and beat us that way. And he couldn't. The receivers couldn't get open for him. And it's your ball game.
Well, and I wonder, it's the curse of Deflategate coming back to bite Baltimore, but they haven't been successful really since they won the Super Bowl back in 2012. They haven't really done much in the playoffs. And, and again, Lamar's 2-4 now in the playoffs. And you have to wonder, when defenses tighten up, when it becomes more difficult and more muddled in the middle, and you don't have the time to throw downfield, and you're playing against better defenses in every game, how well can he really do? And again, he's a phenomenal player, probably going to win MVP for the second time, but will he ever get you to a Super Bowl? And I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm not saying it's a definitive yes or no, but I don't know the answer to that question, and it makes you wonder. Jaden Daniels is a guy that, his ceiling is Lamar Jackson. That's his ceiling. Is he a better passer than Lamar Jackson? I don't think so.
No.
And so you look at Lamar and you say, well, Lamar's not successful in this situation. Is he going to be that much successful? And I don't know again, I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels isn't going to be a great player, and Lamar's a phenomenal quarterback, and he gets you into the playoffs, and he wins MVPs, and he's a weapon. He's unbelievable. But if he can't win in the playoffs, does any of that stuff really matter? Because I don't really care about everything else. Great, win me 10, 12 games. I'm worried about hanging banners. And if you can't help me hang a banner, then what good are we?
Yeah. Well, I also think it's tough to evaluate, because this Ravens offense too is there's so many, not question marks, but things about this game that you don't know how they project forward.
Right.
What does Todd Monken do if he gets the chance to call this game again, knowing what happened? I think he probably calls it differently, and I think he probably does a better job. Does Zay Flowers make that mistake in year 2?
Right.
I would hope not. Mark Andrews is probably healthy, the next time that you do this. I think the big thing for the Ravens is their offensive line is not what it was in 2019 when Lamar was completely unstoppable. And that's a spot where they could probably, use some reinforcements. And if you're going to commit to the running game and being able to do that all the time, then I think you need guys who can maul a little bit more, and probably at the tackle spot. They've had a rotation at the tackle spot all year. We haven't talked about that. The tackle spot is almost like what New England's been doing all season, where they're just rotating guys and still figuring it out. And they got guys playing through injury, and it's a spot they need to figure out. And it feels like it felt like on Sunday their offense needed one more guy to create space or do something. They need one guy who can get open versus man coverage. If you get that and you can force the defense to play into zones, there's bigger passing lanes for Lamar, and his scrambling can open things up. And then you go to man, you're going to have the option to beat them still. It means if you double somebody in man coverage, now that's not a guy who's not spying the quarterback. Lamar has more options there. And that's what Mark Andrews is supposed to be. He's supposed to be their Kelsey, like I said before, but he just was not that guy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So we'll see. All right, let's just briefly, I want to talk about the Chiefs, because we're already getting the Mahomes-Brady comparisons. I know you're not discussing it, but we're going to discuss it because we have to discuss it. You're getting trusted people, okay? Legitimate people are making Andy Reid, Bill Belichick comments, which is insane. But, here's the thing, and let's just be frank about it. What Patrick Mahomes is doing in the NFL has not been seen since Tom Brady did it. The problem that I have is that Tom Brady did this specific Super Bowl run twice. Once when he was a good quarterback, not the best quarterback in the league, but he was a good quarterback. He was phenomenal in big moments, and he was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Not top 1, but a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and then elevated his play in the biggest moments of the season. He did it once there at the beginning of his career. He did it again at the end of his career, where he was the best quarterback in the league and won, and was a big reason that they won. And in the middle, won 2 MVPs, right? And took them to 2 other Super Bowls that they weren't able to win for various reasons, right? And so I don't have a problem with saying Patrick Mahomes is number 2 on the list. I don't have a problem with saying Patrick Mahomes is, does things that I've never seen a quarterback do before. I don't know if that's 100% true, but fine. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to people talk about how he's already better than Tom Brady. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Jordan didn't need 11 rings to pass Bill Russell. And I'm like, hey, you freaking morons. Nobody ever called Bill Russell the greatest of all time. I think Bill Russell's the greatest of all time. He's got 11 championship rings. He's got 2 gold medals, and he's got 2 NCAA championships. The guy's a winner. He wins at everything. He won his entire career. He was the first black coach in the history of the NBA. He was one of the first guys to win.
A legend.
As a player coach, right? The guy did everything. And so, but new guys don't want to call him the greatest of all time because Jordan's the greatest of all time because he played in the modern era and Bill Russell played against plumbers. That's the argument. Fine. I'm not going to, I can't get into that discussion right now because it pisses me off, but I'm not going to get into it. But the point is that people are making that argument already. And it's like Brady has 7 championships. He wasn't playing against plumbers, sir. He was playing against Peyton Manning and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. And, oh, by the way, Patrick Mahomes. He was playing against all those guys, and he beat them all of them. And so I don't even miss me with that argument, man. I think Mahomes is on his way. He's on his way, and right now it's impossible to deny right now. He's on his way. If he stays on this trajectory, he's going to either catch Brady or pass Brady. But until that happens, until he does it, come on.
But I think you can make the argument even simpler here. People are acting like what Mahomes is doing right now has never been done. And they're talking about four Super Bowls in 5 years going to him. You don't have to go back a decade to see Tom Brady do the exact same thing.
Right.
Like, it's just, like, what are we talking about here? He literally just did it. Now, if Mahomes goes next year, we can say this has never been done before. But for 5 years, Brady did that. And he also went on the road to go to the Super Bowl in his last AFC championship in those. We all know who he beat in that one.
Right.
Like, Mahomes is fantastic. He's the greatest player in the NFL right now. And like you said, if he stays at this pace and plays as long as Brady did, or, anywhere near as long as Brady did, he's going to go down as the GOAT. And I will give him his flowers in due time. But, we're not there yet. And I'd also, I don't think we have to play this game of every time somebody does well, we're comparing them to the greatest of all time. Why are we doing that? Why can't we just enjoy what we're seeing for what it is? Mahomes is fantastic. He is incredibly entertaining to watch. He's really good at what he does. And, obviously the media narratives about him can get tired, but separating that from who he is as an athlete, I really enjoy watching Patrick Mahomes play. He's fun to watch play football. He does stuff that a lot of people don't do. And I like watching that happen. We can sit back and enjoy that and say that it's special and he's doing things we haven't seen before in the NFL without saying that just because we haven't seen it before means he's automatically better than somebody else. We are actually allowed to let the dust settle on these things before we start having takes on it.
Right. 100%. And look, by the way, I was fact checked by my dad that Bill Russell only won 1 gold medal, not 2. Sorry about that. But nevertheless, the big thing for me is that, we're always in a rush to declare this. We're in a rush to, he's this and he's that and he's it. And like you said, enjoy it while it lasts. Just enjoy it. If Patrick Mahomes retires tomorrow, he's going to make the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback already. That's fine.
He's already he's at minimum a top 10 or top 5 quarterback, depending on how you want to weigh different things already in his career. And that's incredibly impressive. To
me, if he wins in 2 weeks, to me, he's on the Mount Rushmore, in my opinion. Of quarterbacks.
I think he'll be past Manning at that point, and probably to me on the level with Montana, probably one less ring, but he'll still. Yeah. But the way he's done it, I think you can make that argument that he's better anyway.
Right. And so that's kind of that's the thing. And that's okay. That's okay to say that, but it's also he's not there yet. He's not the greatest of all time. Sorry. And again, the ones that I'll always come back to about Tom Brady. And you can say whatever you want and throw out all the stats and say everything. And for those of you listening out there, okay, here's your ammo. Someone says to you, Mahomes is the greatest of all time. Here's the one you can throw back. Nobody, and I'm going to tell you right now, nobody is ever going to touch this, ever. Tom Brady has 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lead-changing drives in the fourth quarter or overtime of the playoffs. When I say lead-changing drives, that means either he tied the game or the game was tied and he took the lead, or he was losing and took the lead.
Is that in the playoffs or is that the Super Bowl?
In the Super Bowl.
Okay. Yeah.
In the Super Bowl. He has 10 lead-changing drives in the fourth quarter overtime. That is absolutely outrageous.
I just want to go through here and see if I can name these two. Because he had one against the Rams.
One against the Rams.
He had two against the Panthers, I believe.
Two against the Panthers. Yep.
They went down after that Musa Muhammad touchdown and took the lead. None against the
Eagles. He had one against the Eagles. I'm counting it. They scored at the drive didn't start in the fourth quarter, but it ended in the fourth quarter, so I'm counting it.
Yeah. They had one against the Giants.
They had one against the Giants, the first Giants game.
Not 11.
That's 5. Not 11.
Had one in 2014.
Yep.
Was this fourth quarter or overtime?
Fourth quarter or overtime.
Then it's 2 in 2016.
2 in 2016.
Game tying and the game winning.
Yep.
2018 is just the one.
Just the one.
And how many are we at now?
We're at 9 right now.
Did he have one?
He didn't have one. No, I'm trying to hold on. We missed one. Oh no, he had 2 in the first one. No, he didn't. No, that's not right.
No, he didn't.
What the hell, dude? Hold on. I'm trying to think of the one that we're missing, because we are definitely missing one.
He didn't have 3 in the Carolina one, did he?
I don't think he did. No, he didn't have 3 in any games. He definitely didn't have 3 in any games. He had 1 against St. Louis. He had 2.
Oh, did they? They did have one in the second Giants one, didn't they? Because did they have a field goal drive in the fourth quarter to go ahead?
I think
17 to like 15. The scoring in that game was
they didn't score in the fourth quarter in that game.
Oh, we totally forgot the Eagles Super Bowl in there. The second Eagles Super Bowl. That's where it was.
The second Eagles Super Bowl, the loss. That's correct. Yep, there's the other one.
I have entirely pushed that game out of my mind.
Yeah, that one I try not to think about that one.
I haven't watched the highlights for that one ever. Never will. I don't need that.
Right. Yeah, it was the Gronk touchdown in that game that took the lead.
Yep.
So there's your 10. So 10 drives in the fourth quarter overtime of the Super Bowl. And again, it's not the playoffs. It's the Super Bowl. And that's
also played in 10 Super Bowls, which is also something that, Mahomes could have a fantastic career, go down as the greatest of all time, and not play in 10 Super Bowls. But there was incredible.
And so it's just it's one of those things for me that it's not even an argument until you do something like that. And Mahomes, I think, has 2. I think Mahomes has 2 because he had one. Yeah, he had one against the Niners, and I think he had one last year as well. I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, they had the game-winning drive. Yeah.
Right. So he's got 2. Second on the list, by the way. There's 2 guys tied for second on the list, by the way. Do you know there?
Is it going to be Montana's 1, right?
Nope. Montana does not have 3. Montana has 1.
Is it gonna be like Terry Bradshaw or something like that?
Nope.
Oh, Eli Manning, is he on there?
Eli Manning.
Yeah. Like
he has 3.
Troy Aikman?
Nope.
This guy didn't do it in 1 game, right?
No.
Okay. How far back are we talking here?
The Patriots also played this guy in the Super Bowl. And he has 1 of them against the Patriots.
Oh, is it? Oh, man. Oh, Kurt Warner?
Bingo.
Yeah.
So him and Eli both have 3. 3. Yeah. That's second all time. So, come on,
And having 2 is incredibly impressive from Mahomes.
That's what I mean. That's
a dream.
Right. And so to have 8 to have 10 is just stupid. It's just stupid. Yeah. So that's the one for me. It's like anytime anyone brings up Brady versus Mahomes, just throw that stat back in their face and just say, hey, look, man, he's got 10. Okay.
And there's one game in there where Mahomes doesn't have one of those drives, and it's the game he played against Brady because they got blown out.
That's correct. Yep. And look, his offensive line was terrible and it was in shambles, and I get it. I understand. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, and like Brady was he's 3-1 against Mahomes, and you got, if I'm remembering it correct, I don't know all the Bucks.
He lost. Didn't he lose to him on opening night in Mahomes' like first or second start, or was that Alex Smith?
That was Alex Smith in 2017, the Kareem Hunt game.
Okay, so he only played him that one. It was the N'Keal Harry one.
No, the Chiefs came in 2018, 43-40 finish. Catch to Gronk, put him in the field goal range, Gostkowski with it. 43 points in that game. They had 37 in the AFC Championship that year, but 31 on Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Obviously not on Mahomes. He's not playing defense, but it's not like Brady was winning these games against Mahomes because of the defense. It was the offense getting it done in all three of them.
True.
Which is how he beat him in those big games. So I think
So all right, let's take a quick break and let's go into let's get into the other game because
we're gonna get into it in this Lions-Niners thing. I can already tell you.
Oh, it's gonna be bad. So here we go. We got some strong opinions. So here we go. We're trying not to go too long, but
it's gonna be here a while.
It is what it is. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Michigan, New Jersey, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right. Okay. So second game. Just a new low. Just a new low for Detroit sports. The Lions had found every single possible way to lose, and they finally get to the NFC Championship game, and they're up 17 at the half, and they lose 34-31. The game was tied.
27 unanswered.
I mean, it's incredible. Just absolutely incredible. The game was tied by the end of the third quarter. It's just like unbelievable.
The first guy I think we got to give a shout out to here too is Kyle Shanahan, because for how long do you think he's had 28-3 in his head, and to finally, it's not the same, but to get over that in some ways and to be the team with the second half comeback. Shanahan is an elite coach, and I think he's gotten unlucky in there at points, and I feel very happy for him to finally have a team. In the second half, have the luck go their way and make something like this happen. I don't know if they'll beat the Chiefs. We're going to find out in 2 weeks, but
they won't.
It was an impressive victory. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen in the Super Bowl. I think either team winning wouldn't surprise me, but I was impressed by what we saw from the 49ers and their poise. And honestly, I think most of what we saw on Sunday was that the 49ers really were the better team than the Lions. And, over the course of a quarter, it's possible for the Lions to beat the 49ers, but it was much harder over the course of a full game once the 49ers found what was working and were able to just stick to it. And
I made an argument on Twitter, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And it's close, and I'm not saying it's bar none or anything like that, but excluding the quarterback, take the quarterback out of the situation and just look at the skill position players. I think San Fran has an argument for the greatest collection of skill players in NFL history. You talk about Debo and Ayuk, who are both top 10 wide receivers, probably. Kittle, who's a top 10 tight end, and McCaffrey, who is the single best running back in the league. And I mean, they are incredible. They're incredible. And what's crazy to me is that Juwan Jennings, who's their like third string wide receiver, doesn't make a ton of plays, but every time they need him to make a play, he makes a play.
Kyle Juszczyk too,
and the best fullback. Good call, James. And the best fullback in football.
Yeah, I mean they got a fullback who can make catches that nobody on New England's roster, no receiver on New England's roster can make. That's
right.
We're watching. You know, they lost Kendrick Bourne, and Juwan Jennings just kind of stepped right in, and you didn't notice the drop off at all. He fills that role in that offense perfectly.
Yep.
And you know, he's just I mean, to be fair, it's also a lot easier to get guys to do that when he's always going to be the fifth most explosive guy on the field with the skill players, and he's always going to draw the easiest assignments. But
100%.
He wins them, and that's what matters. You saw Detroit's defensive backs really get worked in the second half, and you know the luck went their way. I know we're going to get into the fourth down decision stuff, but I also don't think that's what decided this game. What decided this game was the Lions lost the turnover battle, or I think it was a tied turnover battle in this game. I think it was one on each side.
I think so, yeah.
And the Lions should have won it. They had opportunities for interceptions they didn't get, and they put the ball on the ground. And I think if the Lions win the turnover battle like they probably should have in this game, and I think there's maybe one or two plays in there we want back, they win. Or at least, you know, it's going to come down to who has the ball last in the fourth quarter type of thing. But also, like, Detroit's defense isn't that good, and it shouldn't be super shocking that they didn't force those turnovers. I think even though they had opportunities to, expecting them to make those plays, it's not something they've done all season long.
Right.
And, you know, they were who we thought they were, a defense that is spunky and can be schemed up to do things. But all in all, just isn't that good outside of a couple of players. And you put those corners against those receivers, and it's not shocking this is the result you get.
Yeah. And so I just think, you know, it's difficult. And look, there's difficult arguments and there's difficult conversations to happen on all sides of the ball. And I understand. I get it. The Lions weren't as good. They just, frankly, they weren't as good as the 49ers. And I think everyone knew that. And so the fourth down decisions, look, I'm not going to sit up here and call Dan Campbell an idiot. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Dan Campbell has been about this. He's been about this life all year, really all 3 years. Okay.
That's what he does. That's the culture there.
And that's the thing. He says, I'm going to bet on my guys. I'm going to believe on my guys. I'm always going to go for it. He says that. And so if that's the situation that he says, then I believe him. And that's paid off for him over the course of his career there. He's built that culture up. The guys believe in themselves. They believe in him. They believe in what they're doing there. And that's great. And so I'm not going to sit here and question the fourth down decision-making because that's who he is. If, Reynolds catches the pass on that third down, we're having a very different conversation. If Reynolds catches that pass and they score a touchdown, we're having a very, very different conversation.
Yeah. Or right? even if it still turns into a field goal drive, but you run the clock down more and you get instead of a 45-yarder, you get a chip shot.
Correct.
That changes things.
And so, but here's my issue. And James pointed one thing out that I'll talk about. Number one, at the end of the first half, you're about that life. I'm about that life. I'm going for it. I trust my guys. I'm going for it every time. If it's fourth down, I believe in my guys, and I believe we're going to pick it up. Well, unless it's the end of the first half, and we're already up by 14, so I'll take the 3 points. Well, wait a second. Wait a second. If you are going to go for it every time, and you believe in your guys, and you trust your guys, go for it. Do what you do. Right? And here's the thing, and don't give me, well, they would have, there's no advantage with the field position. Was there an advantage with the field position when they went for it the other two times? Because there wasn't. And so there wasn't. No, there wasn't. They were at the 25. They're the 25-yard line. It's not like they were, it's not like they were at the 10. And then you're pinning them deep. They weren't. There was no advantage or field position on either of the two ones. If you're going to go for it, go for it. Because I'm telling you right now, if you score a touchdown there and you go up 21 points going into the half, the game's probably over. Yeah. The game's probably over at that point, right?
Oh, and it felt, I mean, the way they operated there, it felt like they were 50-50 on what they were going to do. And I think what
Yep.
Campbell said after the game was that if it were, I think, 1 yard closer, they would have, but it was just far enough away that they weren't sure about it. Here's my thing. I don't like in the discussion the fact that we talk about the other ones, and we'll get. I know there's another play you want to talk about at the end of the game, so we'll work our way down to that. But the two fourth downs they went for it. I don't like the discussion that it's an automatic 3 points there. They got a field goal kicker who has only been there for 4 games. It's Michael Badgley, who has he has not been a good kicker in his career. He missed 2 extra points for the Lions already this season. He 4 for 4 on field goals, but they only asked him to make 4 of them. Only 1 of them was from 40 yards or more, and he hasn't kicked outside for them all season long. In addition to that, he is I have the numbers here because I bookmarked this earlier. He was like a 77.1% career, hit percentage on field goals of that range, which is not good. That's 3/4 of the time you make it. So 25% of the time you don't. That's very significant. And that's now not including the indoor-outdoor stuff. He's played indoors or in really good climates most of his career. On the flip side of it, if we say he makes that kick roughly 75% of the time, this year the Lions on 4th and 3 or less have converted it 80% of the time. San Francisco has allowed you to convert those 71% of the time this year. So I think if we're just playing, what's more likely to happen here, you're more likely to pick up those yards than you are to make that kick with that kicker. And then you add in, they've been watching this dude in practice. If he hasn't looking good, they haven't asked him to make any difficult kicks this season.
Right.
So those are not gimmies. And if we can bash the decision all we want. If they kick it and he misses, we're all sitting here talking about, why didn't they go for it or blaming the kicker or whatever. And
they both would have been 45 plus. So it's not like they were chip shot field goals, right?
And so 45 and 47 yards with a guy who's one step above Chad Ryland in the playoffs, which the fact that that's your kicker in a game like this is its own secondary concern. But
and this is my point. But the point that I have, and this is the Belichick thing, right? Now, this is where I'll go back to Belichick. Bill Belichick doesn't give a shit what you think. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think. If he believes in something, he's doing it. He went for it on 4th and 2 at his own 25-yard line or 30-yard line, whatever it was, because he knew he couldn't stop Peyton Manning, and he knew the only way he could win was by doing that. Dan Campbell has put his trust into these guys, and we could talk about analytics and go back and forth and, analytically, what's the best thing to do? He doesn't care about that.
No, you're not going to hear that word once in his
honestly
explanation.
Don't believe that he cares about the analytics. I don't. And I think maybe it's some part of it, but I think for the majority of it, we just believe in our guys. We believe we can pick it up, right? And so, to quote my buddy Jeff, kickers are stupid, and they miss field goals. It's what they do. It's just what they do. They're going to do
unless
it.
You got Adam Vinatieri.
Unless you have Adam Vinatieri or maybe Justin Tucker. Kickers are dumb and they're going to miss field goals. It's just the way it is. And so I'd rather trust my offense than trust my kicker. Fine. And that's okay. I have absolutely no problem with that. And so Light Engine hits it on that. He would have been a genius if they got it. If they pick up that first down and they win the game, we're all sitting here saying, man, the brass balls on that guy to go for it and pick it. So it's like, just because they lost doesn't make it a bad decision. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's it's the process. It's not the outcome. You always have to look at the process, not the outcome, because again, if they win, he's getting all the credit today, but they lost. So he's getting all the blame today. And
and you want the proof of that? We just talked about the entire Chiefs-Ravens games. Barely even mentioned in there that the Chiefs went for it on 4th down in that game and didn't get it, and the Ravens went for it on 4th down and did get it. Ravens win that game. I'm sure we're going to be talking about, why did the Chiefs go for it or whatever. But I think the other thing, you look at the actual win probability things. The suggestions made. Seth Walder had a very long tweet he put up last night talking about his thoughts on this. And it was basically that if you have all the same information the model does, and it says you are slightly better doing this thing, you should probably do that thing. Even if it's only slightly better, it is, we think probability-wise this is more likely. But also, in a situation like this where it's just a hair difference between kicking it or going for it, you got to take into account information the model doesn't know. Things the model doesn't know includes what your kicker has done in practice, the way he's been hitting kicks there. What the model doesn't know is if you have a tell or a tendency on the other defense and you think you have a play call that can expose it. You got something dialed up. You knew you were going to go for it on fourth down, and you knew you had a go-to play for that moment ready to go that you practiced all week. Things like that you can't take into account in the model. And, they got a guy open on the first one.
Right.
And
he just dropped it.
And go bad throw from Goff. And then the second one, the 49ers just beat them. They fooled them. They went out there and they showed man defense, switched into zone at the snap, and it was a man beater that they called, and nobody is open, and then there's pressure, and the last place you want Jerry Goff to be is trying to escape the pocket, trying to create with his legs and hit somebody down the field. That's not where he thrives. So I think you gotta give credit to the 49ers for making better plays in those pivotal leverage moments. That's what
100%.
Football is all about. It comes in playoffs. It comes down to these one or two hair trigger plays at points, and it's who makes the better play in that moment.
Right, and that's and Boomer points out, like, you talk about momentum, right? And if the Lions on the first one kick the field goal and go back up by 3 scores, it takes some of the momentum away from the Chiefs, from the 49ers. I'm sorry, and I agree with you. But if they pick up the first down and score a touchdown and make it 21. That takes a hell of a lot more momentum out of it. So,
and it's all of and the way that's phrased, it's just like there's the underlying assumption there that if you kick the field goal, he makes it, and if you go for it on fourth down, you won't get it. But we don't know that. Actually, historically, when the Lions go for it on fourth down in this range, they get it most of the time. And when they kick it, it's a little bit shaky.
And and so look, ultimately what it comes down to is this. If you disagree with Dan Campbell, I don't necessarily blame you for disagreeing with Dan Campbell, because I get it. I understand. I wanted him to take the points too. I was in my house screaming that he should have freaking kicked the field goal, especially when they were down 3. I'm like, tie the damn game and see if you can, if they get the ball and score a touchdown. Now you're only down by a touchdown. And so, the first one I argued about, fine. You want to go for it, go for it. The second one, it's like, kick the damn field goal. But again, if you miss, it's a disaster, right? And so he trusts the guys.
47, and it's 47 yards. I think you gotta examine in there why you're in this position where you're thinking about which way you want to go, and you don't feel like you can trust the kicker. That's definitely.
But here's the thing for me, and this is the one thing for me, the inexcusable one, the one that you cannot get away from. Is the decision to run at the goal line at the end of the game is so incredibly stupid, because you have to burn a timeout if you don't score. Now listen, if you wanted to run in that situation, I would have had my kicker ready to go, and I would have sprinted his ass onto the field and kicked it as quickly as I could have if he didn't score. Yep. That's what I would have done. You were down 2 scores anyways. It would have saved you some time. It would have been no big deal.
Get the ball back.
Again, I don't know, I don't know in that situation what, if that would have been a good idea with Michael Badgley. He's not a good kicker, but like, if that's really what you wanted to do, fine. But to me, to run it in that situation was just so stupid. It was so stupid. And that's the issue that I have with them. It's inexcusable. You can't do it. You had 3 timeouts and a minute left. If you score a touchdown in that situation, or even if you don't, and I believe that they were going for a touchdown there. They showed it on fourth down. They were going for a touchdown. But to me, if you're going for a touchdown there, you have to throw it 4 times. You have to. Or run it on fourth down instead. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, fourth down you can run if you want. But they just they overthought it. They got too fancy. And, I think we saw the Lions on 3 situational plays lose, and their defense got obliterated in the second half, and that's really what it was. I've seen a lot of criticism too of what happened with like Dan Campbell and the Lions, and I think it's impossible to look at this game and think like they're only in this game because they have Dan Campbell, and their guys are fired up. Look at the roster. Look at the guys they're putting out there on defense. they're going against the 49ers with no decent corners and one decent safety and like 1.5 decent linebackers and
Right.
like a kind of okay defensive line on the road.
Yeah,
the
outside
NFC
Hutchinson.
Championship game with a kicker you don't trust and a Jared Goff is your quarterback. Yeah, this is the situation we're talking about. And they lose by 3 in the NFC Championship game. You only get to that point because you're incredibly well prepared and because you got guys who are fired up and playing above the level they will typically play at. And that's, Dan Campbell is a huge, huge part in that. And, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn also in that. I think they made good adjustments. They had good plays ready to go. They exposed some things for the Niners.
And that's why I would totally push back. TJ says the Lions were great because of Ben Johnson and not Dan Campbell, and I think that that's foolish in my opinion. Ben Johnson did a really nice job in calling the offense all year long, put them in positions to win, and so on and so forth. But like, I'm sorry, like it's just not like he set a culture in that locker room. You think that culture came from Ben Johnson? That culture came from Dan Campbell. They're there, like you said, because of those things. And so that's the argument I would make and look, is it perfect? No. Is he a great game manager? Not necessarily, but he's built that feeling into those guys that we are going to win. We're going to step on the field. We're going to be better, and we're going to win this game, whether it's true or not. And Murphy calls him an idiot. And like the problem is that when it doesn't work, you look like a dummy, right? And that's the problem. But you can't worry about that. Bill never worried about that. Neither does Dan Campbell.
No, and I forget, somebody said this on Twitter, and I wish I could give credit because I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about why Dan Campbell is the way he is with his decision-making on offense. And it's not like analytics or anything like that. He was with the Saints when they had Drew Brees and Sean Payton. That team was very aggressive on fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember because they'd line up for it on fourth down, and you're an opposing fan, and you're sitting there, and your palms are getting sweaty, and you're like, man, we stopped them 3 plays in a row. I don't know if we could do it 4 plays in a row. And they'd strike fear into you, and they're going to win games because of it. And I think having that aggression, trusting your offense to go out there and make plays, empowering those guys, and getting that on your side, like he's a player's coach. He gets his guys going because of that, and he trusts them to make plays, and you strike fear into an opponent because of that.
And I also think the adjusting part of it is not really him. Like he's more of a CEO guy than he is a coordinator. He's not calling plays. He's not saying, let's do this and let's do that. He's trusting Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn to make the right calls offensively and defensively. And he is, he's the emotional leader, right? And again, sometimes that works really well. And sometimes you get into a situation like this where it all starts to spiral on you and you can't get it back, right? And I think that's part of it. When you play with so much emotion, when the emotions switch, it's hard to get it back. And they struggled getting it back, obviously, on Sunday.
Well, and it's hard to tackle Christian McCaffrey for 60 minutes in a game, and now
and Debo
we're talking about guys,
Brandon Ayuk.
and we're talking about guys who aren't that good trying to do it. I mean, I think that's also like this is just a point where you run out of adjustments and the players just aren't that good. Go take a look at this Lions roster outside of some of the really good players that they have, and look at some of the depth in some of the spots, and tell me that. And just forget the coaching. Just say they're playing an NFC Championship game at the 49ers. Will this game be close? If you look at the names and how these guys have played and all that, you just put the two rosters side by side, you're going to say it's a blowout. But the fact that they have gotten, really good play in the trenches on both sides, largely because of effort and type of player and the CEO stuff you talk about with Campbell, super impressive for him to elevate them. And and I also appreciated last night how honest he was with his guys in the locker room. They talked about it. I think we have a tendency to sit here and go, they're going to be back next year. But we don't know if the Lions are going to be back next year. Their offensive coordinator is probably gone. Their defensive coordinator possibly as well. He's gotten some interviews. And we saw what the Packers did at the end of the season and how good Jordan Love looks. Kirk Cousins might be back there in Minnesota. The Bears are probably going to add the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. It's not even a guarantee this is a Lions team that makes the postseason next year, let alone gets to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
And I think kind of letting his players know that this hurts and this is painful, but also we accomplished a lot, and don't take it for granted that we got here. Enjoy what we had. That emotional honesty, to have that with your players, is how you build that trust in those relationships, and that's how you get the best out of them. That the next year they come back fired up, knowing, hey, we're not just gonna get back there. We need to earn it again. We need to take it to another level next year, and that's how you get guys to buy in. And there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat as a head coach too. You got the emotional leader types, you got the players coaches, you got the analytical geniuses, you have the scheme guys, you have the stone-faced Bill Belichick. And a lot of these different. Mike Tomlin has Super Bowl rings. Kyle Shanahan's been there a ton. We see what we got going on all over the league. Like Pete Carroll won rings. There's a lot of different types of guys that win rings and are really good leaders for franchises. So there's a lot of good ways to do it. And Dan Campbell's doing a good job there in Detroit. And
all right,
culture-wise, they won't drop off.
That's correct. All right, let's get into my mock draft, because as Jaden Daniels, the Patriot, pointed out, it is mock time. I agree.
I'm sorry, JD is the Patriot. You're going to be disappointed.
He's going to be disappointed by my mock, but that's okay.
Maybe not though. Maybe not.
One thing, make a mental note on this. I want to chat about, because the Chiefs are playing, allegedly, if they win the Super Bowl, the best average DVOA percentage, supposedly, of all time. And that's fine, and I believe that. I just don't understand how DVOA is calculated, and here's why. In 2001, the Patriots played against the Raiders, who had a top 7 offense. They played against the Steelers, who had a top 5 offense and defense. And they played against the Rams, who had a top 5 offense and defense. And so I just don't understand. And look, not now. Nope. Don't explain it now. It's too late. We're getting ready to my mock. But file that away. We're gonna have a DVOA conversation on Thursday. Okay?
Can I add one Patriots related?
Oh, yes. Go ahead. Yes.
So of the top 5 teams that have made like the hardest playoff runs of all time, 3 of them were teams that went through New England as
which is true
of that run. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is also like, that's a nice little boost to the ego, that when some of the hardest accomplishments ever had to go through you to get it done. I think the 07 Giants are in there.
07 Giants are second place right now, yeah. 11 Giants I saw on the list too. Yeah.
I don't know if the 11 ones were, but I know the 2012 Ravens were in there. So it might be, I think it's those 3 are all in the top 5. All have to go through New England.
Yep. So anyways, all right, let's get into my mock draft from today. Came out on Pat's Pulpit. If you haven't read it yet, go to patspulpit.com. It's still up there. Obviously, it's still going to be up there. And so I don't listen. We talked about this already. I don't know what Chicago's going to do at number 1. I have no idea what Chicago's going to do. They have to make a decision. Do they want Justin Fields, or do they want to draft Caleb Williams? I think Caleb Williams is the surefire number 1. I was told by a ton of people today when they saw my mock draft that Caleb Williams is too small to play quarterback in the NFL. It's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. Caleb Williams is too small. He is, I think someone said to me, he is the least likely of all the quarterbacks to be good in the NFL, which I thought was interesting. And so I don't really know what people are thinking there. But nevertheless, I had the Patriots moving up to number 1 to draft Caleb Williams. What I had them giving up was number 3, number 103, which is projected because we don't know what the comp picks are yet, which is a 4th-round pick, Patriots 4th-round pick, and a 2025 first-round pick to Chicago to move up to number 1. Now, that's a lot, or it isn't a lot, depending on. Someone said that it's like 3,000 points was to move up from like a future first-round pick is 3,000 points, which is complete insanity. But it doesn't matter.
That's not true.
I know. I don't know what he's looking at. Doesn't matter. To me, that's enough to get to 3, to get from 3 to 1. We saw what it took to get from 9 to 1, right? Now 9 is a huge jump, obviously, from 3 to 9, clearly, but like. To me, you have to give up that future first-round pick to get up there. You have to. They're not going to accept less than that, I don't believe.
And the only way I think you can get up there without offering a future first is you got to offer probably 2 or 3 times the number of picks. Like be one of those, you're giving up your 3rd and your 4th this year and your 2nd and your 3rd next year.
Right. And to me, it's just that I would not do that. In my opinion, I would not do that. And by the way,
and then,
typically the value for the future picks, just so everyone's aware, typically what you do for this year is, and it's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but usually you count the first pick in the second round is typically the value that you attribute to it. Usually.
yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's one. Future picks are typically weighted as one round worse.
One round worse, right?
Than what they are.
And so you'd put it at the top of the second round. So it'd be a top of the second round pick. So pick number 33 would be the weight for that. Now, obviously, if you think the Patriots are going to suck, clearly that's the situation. But here's my argument, and because TJ said, doesn't it typically cost 2 first-round picks to move it to first? Here's why. Okay. Because if you're the Chicago Bears and you're keeping Justin Fields, you're drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. And the only way you can move out of number 1 and still get Marvin Harrison Jr. is to make the trade with the Patriots. And so you take less than you would get from, name the team, Atlanta at 8 or whoever else it is, right? Whoever else it is that wants to move up, because it's not going to be anyone else in the top 5, by the way, because 4 and 5 both have quarterbacks. And so it's going to be someone outside of that top 5. Probably, I think Atlanta is the next team that really makes sense at 8, nevertheless. And so for me personally, I look at it and say, all right, I can move back to 3. I'm okay moving back to 3. And if that's the case, I can look at this and say, all right, I move back to 3, fine. And I take Marvin Harrison Jr. And so I take a little bit less and get Marvin Harrison Jr. instead. And I think that's where it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's also, we talk about the draft pick calculator. It also gets really muddy at the top of the draft because you're not really trading for draft picks. You're trading for specific prospects. And it matters a lot more how much a team values the specific prospect. Like how much less Chicago would be willing to take here is tied directly to how highly they value Marvin Harrison Jr. That's really what that is. And if they value him a ton, I see Nick C in the chat talking about how it could be like the second and third that could get this done or whatever. But Caleb Williams is considered a generational guy, and other people are going to want him. Like the draft pick calculator matters, but you need to have a lot of wiggle room when you're at the top of the draft like this, and you're almost definitely going to be overpaying based on that. Like that's just
100%. And Murph is saying too that you're giving up a top 5 to top 10 pick next year, theoretically, right? And maybe you are, but the thing is that a generational quarterback, there is no price that you can put on a generational quarterback. If you said to me, you have to give up the next 4 years of first-round picks, but you get Patrick Mahomes for the length of his career, I would do that in a heartbeat, in a second, in a millisecond. I would do that. Of course you would. If Caleb Williams is as good as we think he's going to be, and if the Patriots believe that he is really a generational player, it is 100% worth it to give up one future first-round pick. It's not even a question. Now, if you miss and he's not as good as you think he is, then of course it's a disastrous trade. But you have to trust in your judgment, and you have to trust in your ability to draft and scout that he really is that good, and you're giving up the pick because you need to get that guy. And so, and it may not work out. And look, this all may be, elementary. They may not do it anyways. But in my opinion, that's the decision you have to weigh. And if you think he's going to be that good, you make the move.
And you got to take a risk in here somewhere too. You don't get a franchise quarterback without taking a risk somewhere, unless you stumble into one on day 3. And that's not, that's not a sustainable strategy. You're not going to build a franchise off of repeatedly hitting on the 199th pick and turning him into the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. That's it'd be lovely. It'd be fantastic to happen, but you don't build around that. So I like the idea of trading up. I don't think the Bears are going to do it. I think they end up staying put and taking Caleb Williams. But,
and if anything, I think they try, if they really want Marvin Harrison Jr., I think they try to take 9 and get up to 3. and take Marvin Harrison Jr. And if they got to give the Patriots a boatload to do it, I think that maybe they do that. I don't know, but that's that's kind of my problem. So, anyways,
it's totally possible.
All right, so in the second round, I had them actually trading back in the second round. I had the Titans moving up for Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas, and the Patriots moved back to 38. So they pick up a 5th rounder and they pick up a 3rd rounder next year to do that. And again, that's a little bit extra value than what it's worth, again, on the trade calculator or whatever. But again, sometimes when you look at that move, it's like, hey, we want this guy. We have to get this guy. The Patriots are the 2nd pick in the second round. It's a very, very valuable pick. Everyone's been sitting on it all night long. And this is the type of move. Tennessee just made this type of move last year to go get Will Levis. So I think it makes sense. So I have them doing that. And then I have them taking Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina at 38, who had just a disastrous weigh-in literally today when my mock draft came out at the Senior Bowl. Was listed at 6'3", clocked in at 6'1". His hands are like tiny; they're about the size of my hands, which is not good. But the kid looks like an absolute baller. There's some question marks as to how good he'll be, but man, he is fast as hell and he's pretty big.
I kind of like Xavier Leggett's tape. I think he's really fun to watch. There's a lot to like about him as a prospect. It's just the one thing that's going to be held against him this entire time. So he had like 450 yards in his career through his first 4 seasons at South Carolina, and then goes off for over 1,000 this year in his 5th year. It's going to be why this year. What changed?
Right.
What was it? And the big worry with him is that he's the oldest guy in the field in a lot of the games, or one of the oldest guys on the field in a lot of the games he's playing. And it just took him that long because now that he's an adult playing against younger people, he can moss them, and he's faster than them, and he's stronger than them, and he can make plays because of that. And when he gets to the NFL, when it's all guys who are the same strength class as him, then that advantage goes away. And how can he do it? And I do think he has some good routes in there. He's a very good contested catch guy. I just think in a lot of ways he's like N'Keal Harry in the SEC. And the SEC version of N'Keal Harry in a lot of ways on tape. And N'Keal Harry had some highlight plays. He had some really good stuff in college. But to me, when you combine that with the age thing, he's like a 3rd rounder.
Yep.
So I like the player. I like the fit in New England. I think
a little early.
Wouldn't go this high with him.
Right. Also, Light Engine asked a question about Washington at 2. I think they're pretty much locked in on Drake May. No one said anything about that. But they're locked in a quarterback. I can't imagine them not taking a quarterback. And to me, the second best quarterback in the draft is Drake May. They could take Jaden Daniels, perhaps. And shoot, if I'm the Patriots and they're going to take Jaden Daniels, I'm sitting at 3, and I'm taking Drake May. And look, I'm taking either Drake May or Caleb Williams, whoever the Bears don't want. If the Bears decide they want Drake May and he's their guy, then I'm taking Caleb Williams at 3. And if the Bears say, yeah, we're taking Caleb Williams, then I'm taking Drake May at 3. So, we'll see, but there's a lot depends on those first 2. I assume it'll be Drake May, but you never know. So, anyways, in the 3rd round, I have them move back just a pick. I have them give them a future 6th and pick up a 5th round pick from the Chargers. Chargers jump them and get an offensive player. The Patriots at 69. Nice. Take Kalen Carson, corner from Wake Forest. And here's the thing, man. And this is the thing. This is the funny thing for me. People don't think that corner is a position of need. We've talked about it on the show. You've been banging this drum basically all year long. They just spent a 1st round pick on Gonzo, right? He's a beast. He's really good. I like John Jones quite a bit. I love Marcus Jones. I mean, love Marcus Jones. But who do they got after that? Alex Austin? He's their next corner. You know what I mean? Miles Bryant.
They don't
Jones. Have, and that's the thing.
Jones, but he's older, and I
mentioned
he's not back after his next contract.
Well, that's what I mean. And Kalen Carson gives you an outside corner from Wake Forest, an outside corner that can play outside, that has the speed, and so on and so forth. So again, it's not people want offense. It's not offense. I get it, but I think it's a valuable pick. It's a pick that you need to have. And so I have them taking Kalen Carson. So All right, in the fourth
I like
round.
that pick a lot.
Now, the Patriots have 3 fifth-round picks after making 2 trade backs and picking up 2 extra fifth-round picks. They trade 2 of those fifth-round picks to move up to 107 with the Giants, and they take Blake Fisher, who played right tackle across from Joe Alt at Notre Dame. Here's the thing with me. They need a tackle desperately. Desperately, they need a tackle. Now, Blake Fisher played right tackle at Notre Dame. Can he switch over and play left tackle? I don't know the answer to that question. I honestly don't. Fisher is nasty in the running game. He's smart in the passing game. He's got some. He's a guy that has traits and needs a little bit of polish. Is he going to start day one for you? No. He's a 4th-round pick. But he's a guy that if you develop him correctly, could turn into a player for you. Now, if you sign Mike Onwenu at right tackle and you're looking at Blake Fisher saying Blake Fisher can never play left tackle for us, and Mike Onwenu is right tackle for the foreseeable future, then it probably doesn't make sense, right?
But I do think there's a world here where it's Mike Onwenu slides right back to guard, and Blake Fisher's your right tackle, and you got City So, Jake Andrews, Cole Strange all battling for spots, and you feel really good about your depth on the inside, which we're talking about trying to fill starting spots in the offensive line, and filling out depth there too with this move I think would be nice. So I haven't gotten into his tape, but I like the profile, and
what shows up
pick at the position.
What shows up on the tape, and I did cursory, as I kind of always do with these picks, I do kind of cursory, a little bit of film study, a little bit of, scouting report reading and so on and so forth. And what I saw was a guy that's smart, makes the right plays, nasty in the run game. Again, needs a little bit of polish in the passing game, especially, but like he has the traits. He's got the long arms. He's like quicker on his feet than you'd expect for a big guy. So like, I like that idea. Again, I don't know if he can play left tackle. That's way above my pay grade. He probably can't. Murph said he can't play left tackle, and he's probably right. I don't know. He's played right tackle his whole career. So, like, it's tough. It'd be a tough transition for him to go to left tackle. But maybe he played right tackle because Joe Alt was a beast at left tackle, and they were like, bro, sorry, dude. What do you want us to do? Like, is Joe Alt. You know what I mean? And so, again, I don't know. And so that's up to the Patriots. That's up to people that are making decisions that, again, are getting paid a hell of a lot more than I'm getting paid. So
they need a lot here at tackle. And the other part we haven't talked about is there's a world where Mike Onwenu isn't back, and you're trying to fill a lot of spots here on the offensive line, and you just got to throw bodies at it.
Right. Well, the other thing too is that it's the 4th round. Are you getting a legitimate starting left tackle in the 4th round? Probably not. But if you can get a legitimate starting right tackle in the 4th round, then maybe it's worth it, So,
and even if this guy turns into, we'll say better than a Connor McDermott level guy, but even a guy you can throw out there who is a very good swing tackle, even in the 4th round, you'll take that, because if you don't have to fill out your depth at tackle, you can go spend a little more. You can go make a trade for somebody, or when you can take a risk on whoever the next Trent Brown is and know that if he gets hurt, you got to back up behind him, and you feel good about that. So it gives you those options going forward.
Yep. So, all right, 5th round, they're taking Ben Sinnott, tight end out of Kansas State. He's not some physical freak, but what I liked about it is that the first comparison that comes up is Jake Ferguson, and that's the type of guy that I'm looking for. He's not George Kittle. He's not – but, like, get me a guy that can – block and get out and catch the ball, and that's exactly what Ben Sinnott can do.
I took him in my mock too, Pat.
Oh, did you? I missed it. You know what? I tried not to do it, and I missed it, but that's okay.
It's the one. No, but I love it. That's a deep hit there that we both like.
Yep.
Yeah, he was. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, like a top 5 run blocker at tight end in the country for PFF, and also the leader on his team in receptions.
Yeah. So that's the type of guy you're looking for, And especially, they got no one at tight end. Literally no one. They picked up LaMichael Petaway. And that's what they got at tight end right now.
I'm assuming
they're going to sign some guys, but
Yeah, they're not going to have nobody when they get to the draft. But
that's correct.
You got to, when it's tight end's a spot, at day 2, day 3, you can find guys. And sometimes it takes 3 years before you found somebody good. But you just kind of throw picks at the position there, and eventually you're going to get somebody good.
Yep. So second to last pick, 6th round, I have Dylan Lobb. Lobb, right? Is how you pronounce it?
I think it's Laba.
Laba. Okay. From New Hampshire. Not a local guy, born in New York, but went to school in New England. And this guy is a running back. To me, the guy, he had 117 catches over the last 2 seasons, right? What I've heard from people is that he's going to be at the Senior Bowl this week. There's a good chance he won't be available in the 6th round after this week at the Senior Bowl. What I also heard from people was that, well, you know what? If someone goes down at the Senior Bowl and they don't have enough wide receivers, he can play wide receiver. We can run with the wide receivers. Now, he's a running back. He's 5'10". He's a small guy. He's a running back build. But he's got the pass catching skills to be a receiver out of the backfield, to like fit in, to play slot every now and again if you need him to.
Yeah.
That's the exact type of guy the Patriots are looking for and have been needed. They tried to get it with Strong, didn't work, right? And so this could be the guy that comes in. Again, you might have to take him in the 5th round. You might even have to take him in the 4th round. But I like the idea of bringing this guy in.
Yeah.
Explosive.
Yeah.
Explosive is what I'm looking at.
Yeah. I looked it up, by the way. It's Lauby. That's how you say it.
Okay, there
Dylan
you go.
Lauby. So, yeah.
There you go.
He's a good product. I'm actually friends with his brother, too, he does some NFL draft content on Twitter, and he's a coach, Jordan Lauby. So,
so there you go. How about that? So, all right, last pick, 7th round pick, Evan Anderson, defensive line, FAU, 6'3", 326. Kind of a big dude. A big dude in the middle. I like it. He was wrecking things out of FAU. He was wrecking things at the Shrine Bowl, practice all week long, dominating on interior of the defensive line. Of course, he got worked a few times out there, but looked really good, played really well. He's the type of guy that he's not an explosive pass rusher, but he's got a little bit. He's a little bit quicker than he looks, than his size would have him show you. Doesn't have a ton of like moves. He's not super polished in the passing game, but like with the athleticism that he brings with his size, you feel like we can develop him into something, right? And in a 7th round pick, it's like friggin' just like take it and see what happens, you know?
This is a Bill Belichick special right here. I mean, I think of like Sam Roberts and how they've there's some guy who I don't think worked out, but they took some small school defensive lineman on day 3 before, like maybe a Division II guy or something who's a freak athlete. And
yes. I forget
there's a name bouncing around in my head, and I don't think it's the same guy, but Michael Buchanan may have been in that mold.
Yeah, even like Akeem Hicks. Akeem Hicks was a UDFA, like same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like that's just defensive line is a spot where you just need athletes and you need depth, and that's also a position where you can draft a guy and keep him around the bottom of your roster for a while and develop him, and maybe in year 3 he is Lawrence Guy for you. That's the best case, but even Sam Roberts has been a decent rotational piece for New England this past season. We'll see what he turns into in year 3. So drafting guys like that is something you can always use, and an athlete like that is somebody you can use on special teams, I am sure.
Yeah.
And that's you get an athlete like that, you're happy with it.
Yep, exactly. So apparently Murph says Mike Debate talked him up on the show yesterday. So Mike's seeing the same thing where you are, which is good. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of, we got I was looking at some of the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl stuff. I don't know if you've seen the receivers out there, but the one name that I'm looking at is Malik Washington.
Yes.
I mentioned him on here before, but he is the Virginia kid. I think 4 years at Northwestern. Now he's at Virginia, and he just put up crazy numbers. He's getting great separation. I don't remember if he's Shrine or senior, but I'm pretty sure he's senior. And really excited to see how he looks in this game because, we talked about it. There's so many elite receivers who have just kind of played at small schools and flown beneath the radar and then break out late and they get caught in the Senior Bowl late and you get them on round 5 and now it's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, true. So I don't know, man.
And he's not the only guy like that either this year. There's a number of guys in that profile, and you want another Pop Douglas, you can get another Pop Douglas in this draft.
Exactly. So that's it. That does it for my mock. So we'll see what happens. We're going to have more. So as we said, and I haven't mentioned this to you yet, Matt, but I was looking at the timeline, how it worked out. If we do once every 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, you do your mock. Then 2 weeks after that, I do
the
my
Super
mock, and then
Bowl,
so
that'll
on
be
and
my
so
next
forth.
one.
That's right. So every 2 weeks we do a mock, and then when we hit April, we do a mock every week. That will lead us into draft week. The last one will be, I think, my mock on the Monday before the draft, and I think we'll have each done either 5 or 6 mocks for the summer, and I think that'll be great. I think that's perfect. If we want to go a little bit earlier, we can go a little bit earlier, but I think that makes the most sense to do that. So we're going to be having them every few weeks. We're probably going to be doing. We might even do what I think would be fun if we did a live, once or twice did a live mock on here. I think it'd be fun if we did a live mock, a full first round live mock, and had someone on with us. So we're going to do a ton of mock draft stuff. We're going to be talking a ton about the draft. Obviously, clearly, we've got a ton of stuff to talk about in free agency. You got to assume that there's going to be a ton of moves that get made. So it's going to be a fun offseason. It's going to be a fun offseason. A ton of stuff going on.
I'm ready for actual moves to get here too, because we're gonna have the Super Bowl and you got like a dead month ish there, and that's where all the stuff happens behind the scenes, and I don't want it behind the scenes. I want to find out what's actually going on.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks, Murph. Thanks for everyone. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
We should get coaches this week too. Hopefully, I would hope there's some higher guys.
Yes. So it does look like DeMarcus Covington is the guy at DC. They haven't officially announced it yet, but it's basically officially announced. I think it's a good hire. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Love that.
It also looks like Mike Vrabel's not getting a job. Maybe Mike Vrabel will come in as assistant head coach. We talked about that already, but we'll see what happens there. But I'm still holding on hope that something like that happens.
And they got Clint Kubiak, who's 49ers pass game coordinator, if I have that right.
Yep, that's correct.
Interviewing him, and I
think they're interviewing like 11 candidates for offensive coordinator. So they're doing their due diligence, which I'd like to see.
One of the Raiders guys, which I actually thought I think it's the Raiders pass game coordinator or something like that, is who they're interviewing. Name is escaping me, but Turner.
Yeah, I don't know.
The reason that
you might be right. It's Norv's son, right? Norv's son?
I'm pretty sure based on the name. The reason this one caught my eye is because if McDaniels were to end up being the offensive coordinator, you do wonder about interviewing a guy like that with the intention of then bringing him in for a role in New England with McDaniels.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll see. And then I have a note here while we're talking. If it's Clint Kubiak and you got a 49ers pass game coordinator come to be your offensive coordinator, a name to watch in free agency, and we're all going to cringe the second I say it, but I think it has to be said, is Sam Darnold. You need a backup at least.
Yeah.
And, you kind of want a high ceiling reclamation project type guy in that role who's also willing to sit behind a starter if you get to that point and you draft somebody. And if you can bring in a Sam Darnold who would have familiarity with the offense, who's a free agent like that, I'm not jumping for joy over here at the thought of Sam Darnold playing for the Patriots, but you got to fill the position, and he kind of hits a lot of the boxes. And maybe you in year he was drafted in 2018, in year 6 or 7 of his career, or whatever this would be, then maybe he finds something the way Geno Smith did. Probably not, but it's not totally insane to think that. Or even the way Baker Mayfield has.
Right. Yeah, you never know.
He probably doesn't, but
listen, I advocated for it back in 2021, trading for Sam Darnold, so I'm here for it as a backup quarterback.
This is life in the NFL when you don't have a quarterback. You got to talk yourself into some options and take as many chances as possible. Oh, we didn't mention it all, which we should wrap up here with quickly. The Mac Jones article today. I didn't think people were taking this article to be like a rehabbing Mac's image. We're going to keep him in New England thing. And that's how the headline read. And then you read the article and it is not that. Mac's not like the team doesn't come off good in the article, but we do that. Mac's handling of things still comes off pretty poorly.
Yeah. It just never really sat right with me the way Mac kind of acted throughout the year. He just, I don't know. And it just seems like, like you said, you pointed out in the group chat, like, he had a stinger, couldn't feel his arm. He couldn't feel his throwing arm.
That's what was said in the article.
Tell anyone? Like, what are you doing, dude?
Well, and it's the way the sequence is too. They said that he gets a stinger and can't feel his throwing arm. I watched the series. I went back and watched this. The Patriots Colts game for those who are unfamiliar.
Yep.
And he gets in that late drive in the fourth quarter. He gets a stinger on a hit, and then the next play he throws it, and it's a completion to Mario Douglas. A big completion underneath pass goes and gets them down into the red zone. I think they run it 3 or 4 times in a row, and then it's Mac Jones's pass to Mike Gesicki that comes off about 15 yards short and gets intercepted.
Yeah.
But the way it's described in the article and then the way it happens on the field just doesn't match to me. Nothing about the way Mac acts makes it seem like his arm was numb. Right. Nothing about the hit made it seem like it would impact his arm at all. Now, obviously, if it's a pinched nerve or stinger or something, like it can be a back or a neck thing and still impact the arm, but it wasn't an abnormal hit. And like the article describes him like not limping off the field, but walking off the field and like he can't lift his arm at all. And that's not at all what's actually happening. And then what's also described is that he threw the interception because he couldn't feel his arm. Then comes off the field, tells nobody that's why, and then is surprised when he gets benched for Bailey Zappi. I'm sorry, but you're an adult of life in the NFL. If something like that happens to you, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to let people know, hey, this is a medical issue. This is why. And that was, if he couldn't feel his arm, that means that third down where he's thrown it to Mario Douglas, he got that pass off completely fine with no issues. And if it's third down, you can't feel your arm and you're the quarterback, you should be letting the trainers know because you should not be the guy in there making that play. That
is correct.
If that's where we are, you're not Tom Brady. You haven't earned the right to just stay in no matter what. If you got an injury, you gotta. And there's other stuff in there too, but there's another quote in there too. It was kind of a side story in here, but that caught my eye. It's a quote from one of the receivers that was talking about how, we just. Our room didn't get it together until it was too late in the season. I'm like, didn't get it together until it was too late in the season? When did you get it together?
Never got it together.
At what point did you get it together?
Yeah.
What is your self-evaluation if you thought you got it together at some point in the season? Because put on the tape and show me. I haven't seen it.
That's brutal. And then so the whole thing, the whole operation, Mac's got to go. I think, I'm very, very, very worried that the Patriots are going to look at this and say, Bill did Mac wrong. We still believe in Mac. We're going to run it back with him again next year. I think that would be a disaster of a mistake. And, by the way, we had 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. So you're going to give him a 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years? Because that's going
to bring Josh McDaniels back.
What are we talking about? So, and maybe they bring McDaniels back, but it's just,
Well, and if the Patriots go into this draft thinking there's only 2 guys that we think could be franchise guys, and that's 2 guys who are not going to be there at pick 3, we can't make a move up for them, and we're just not getting a guy we like this year. If they want to say we're going to get rid of Zappi, we're going to sign Brissett or Sam Darnold or whatever backup quarterback you want, and we're going to have a QB competition with them and Mac for this season, knowing full well that this is a short-term solution, I can get behind.
Not a solution either, by the way.
No,
a solution until you can draft someone in the top 5 next year.
Yeah, because the only thing worse than don't draft somebody at 3 for quarterback just to draft a quarterback at 3 even if you don't believe in them. That is an awful way to do things. I'd rather kick it out a year and we'll figure it out in 2025 and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I agree. And, the tone of the article is basically like they're not picking up the 5th-year option. Maybe he could be back. So I don't even think it's setting up for anything. They save money too if they get rid of him. If you bring Mac Jones back, get rid of Bailey Zappi, and you're only keeping Mac because you think he can come into camp as the 3rd QB and possibly compete for a spot with other people you bring in, that's fine.
I don't hate that, but yeah. So we'll see.
You're not. If you go into camp with him as the presumed starter with no real competition for him, this is that's not a serious way to handle things. What are we doing?
I agree. So, anyways, all right, let's get the heck out of here. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you, everyone, for coming through. We appreciate it. Murph, don't ever apologize for being all over the chat. We love the chat. We love people in the chat interacting. That's why we do it. That's why we're here live. So don't ever apologize. You got something to say, flip and say it, man. That's what we want. That's why we're here. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate it, and we'll be back on Thursday night.
Take
care, guys.